Have you ever felt like you just wanted to give up? And that's the topic that I want to talk about today, because so often I'll see people who have been stuck in that very place. And I know I was in the past also stuck in that place of wanting to give up and feeling frustrated and hopeless and like I had an insurmountable problem that I couldn't overcome. And it was frustrating. And part of the reason this comes up is also because our volunteer last week's podcast, that's exactly how she mentioned she felt. Just was in that downward spiral of wanting to give up. And that's what I want to kind of give you a few insights on that topic today, because let's be honest, our life, the way that energy works or the mind works can be tricky, and it can leave us in a state of frustration. And this is what I mean is, all of the time you hear me use the example about how patterns can repeat themselves. So the example that I use, the unfortunate example, is the woman with the abusive father might leave him and find the abusive boyfriend, boss, spouse, etc. And that can feel really frustrating that the pattern keeps showing up. And even when she says, let me just find a nice, wonderful, amazing, loving guy, and then the pattern can repeat again and again. And let's be honest, that can feel really frustrating. And not just in that scenario. Of course, I have absolute compassion, but any pattern where somebody's trying to succeed or trying to find a relationship or trying to heal or trying to change or just feels a feeling of trying to get ahead in life, but they can't, or feeling fear about life, and always stuck in fear, or always stuck in frustration, or always stuck in criticism or hurt or rejection or abandonment, whatever it is. Let's be honest. It can feel frustrating, where it's like the pattern can show up here and then you try to overcome it in one place and then it shows up. It's like whack-a-mole. It's like it goes up here and here and here and here. It shows up all around you. And it can feel frustrating. And then it can feel like you just want to give up. Like, what's the point? And that's what I wanted to really talk about today, is that, and ultimately creating that change. So when we're in that place of frustration, of feeling like you want to give up, it takes an awareness to really shift out of it. It takes a desire to really, really want to change, to shift out of it. And I know, obviously, if you're here, clearly you have a desire to change. Clearly you have a desire to do something different, or you wouldn't be here, right? And so that's where I was during my injury, is that I was so frustrated, and it seemed like no matter what I was doing, nothing was working. And I was stuck in frustration and hopelessness and just wanting to give up. And I think that once I took that off the table, once I said, look, you know what? I can't give up. So I'm just going to have to calm down and stop being frustrated and really figure this out. And I think that the feeling, the awareness that said, that was saying, once I started looking at patterns and I said, okay, let me really tune in and understand what the pattern was. That was powerful, is really understanding patterns in a new way. It's like, imagine if somebody was trying to stand up over and over and over again repeatedly, and over, they hit this invisible ceiling, and it feels frustrating. It feels like, gosh, why even bother standing up again? If there's this invisible ceiling they keep hitting their head on, why try to stand up again? And so that feeling of that frustration. And so really ultimately what shifted for me was understanding patterns and saying, okay, let me understand how the mind works, and let me understand that no wonder why it feels like there's a block. No wonder why it feels frustrating is because there's some type of pattern or patterns going on that are blocking me. There's some type of invisible ceiling, if you will, and I need to really remove the invisible ceiling. And that right there, the awareness to get focused and to understand it instead of being frustrated, was pivotal. And the reason it was pivotal is because it was just a whole different awareness, a whole different insight. And then I started just focusing on, okay, what's the solution? What is it that I need to see that I'm not seeing, that I need to be aware of? And that change is pivotal. Now, by the way, if you think about last week's episode, I worked with a beautiful, beautiful volunteer who started out the episode the session as I started working with her in that very way, where she said she's tried everything and her health has gone down and she's just wanting to give up. That's where we started. The session was exactly that. Just she mentioned she's tried everything and it's not working, and she's just was in this pain and some serious illness and all of these things going on, and she's just like so obviously she still had some hope left to come on the podcast and work on it. And what was beautiful was that we identified the very pattern that was keeping her stuck. And that there's multiple patterns and multiple feelings, but as we identified those, she literally went from feeling like, what's the point? She was frustrated and wanting to give up, to going, oh my gosh, like hopeful, like she could do this. And that's the insight that I want to share with you today, is that awareness. Because I've seen people do this, and I've done this myself, where I went from like frustrated and upset and trying to just make it happen, to then meditating and checking out and just trying to meditate and binaural beats and frequencies and just doing that, to then like, okay, let me surrender. And I did that. And that took me into a deeper depression. I was like, surrender. I was trying. And that didn't go well for me. It's really the wrong direction. Acceptance and surrender. Whew. So instead, letting go of the negative emotions around it and really starting to get rid of the negative emotions, get aware. The more I then started understanding patterns and how they can show up, and no wonder why it can feel frustrating. It's like, even imagine if where we are in life, there's the patterns are show up and it's invisible, but it feels like, but we keep running into it. It's like running into invisible brick walls everywhere we go, and we wonder why it's frustrating. And that's really ultimately, going inside, tuning in. So that's the thing, is if there's something that you're frustrated with, ask yourself, what is the pattern? What could it be? What could be coming up? And if it comes to healing, really tuning in. If you haven't seen my work after I healed myself, basically, that's the reason why I wanted to start showing people under medical equipment we could do it. Because sometimes that frustration of not knowing that we can do it, not feeling that we can. But the more we see we can do this, we can make changes, we can transform our lives, we can transform our health, the more powerful it is. And so on that note, by the way, a link to my medical journal, the work that I've done in a medical journal, is in the show notes. So if you haven't seen that, click on that, look at it. The awareness where you can see somebody who's literally physically in pain, and they shift their mindset, and you can see on the scan where the whole picture is shifted and their pain is literally gone. They say it's gone, and you can see on the scan that it's gone, and they've released it. Now, it does take follow through. They have to maintain the new mindset and really get it ingrained, of course. But my point is that what we are capable of, what you are capable of, is absolutely incredible. And so the insight or the message that universe is wanting me to share today is exactly that, is that if you felt frustrated in any area of life, relationship, love, happiness, safety, connection, growth, whatever it is, that instead of getting frustrated or upset or desperate or all of those things, I've been there, I've done that, it didn't work well, instead of being in those places, tune in, really get curious, get so curious. What is the pattern? What am I not seeing? What do I need to change? And change it, because the changes that I see people make all of the time are absolutely incredible. So that's the insight that I want to share with you. By the way, if you happen to miss last week's episode, you'll definitely want to tune in and check it out, because there's like a surprise twist at the end that really helps you to see the profound power of the mind. And also you just can see what it feels like to go from feeling stuck and hopeless to feeling like, wait a second, there is hope and I can do this, but I really have to tune in and change. So it's powerful. And so that's the gift, that's the insight that I want to share with you today. is exactly that, is tune in. You're more amazing than you realize. Obviously, if you're here, you know that. But I think at some point in time, we all need to hear that very thing that says, okay, if you're frustrated, if you're wanting to give up, if you're feeling hurt, if you're feeling whatever it is, tune in. Understand the pattern. The more you understand your mind and how patterns work, the more you get good at really getting unstuck, getting out of them, and creating that change. So that's today's insight. And as always, I ask you, please do take a quick moment to hit the share button on this episode. Share it with somebody you love, somebody you care about, or somebody you don't even know, because the more that every single person in our world feels unstuck and happy and healthy and loved and loving and flourishing, truly the better this world is for all of us. And so please do make a point to hit the share button, and please do make a point to have an incredible rest of your day. And I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. We'll see you there.